Yeah.
No, I was on my way over this morning,
Oh.
and there was a state police officer 2 cars in front of me. I was like,
Oh my, you had to go at least 65 or less, huh?
Really
Instead of
puts crap in
85?
everything, doesn't it? It's just awful.
Oh yeah. I've been going to Coos Bay when this dark black streak of a van-looking thing passes me and disappears off into the sunset.
It's just a blip on your radar screen.
Yeah, it just goes, shoo, and I'm doing 58 or 9, you know, and
You are not. No, you're not.
I am too.
Bob, you were probably doing 70.
No, never.
And you still had a street
No,
pass.
only on the freeway.
Judging from my experience.
Only on the freeway.
All right.
I think everybody's on, including the library and the
Yeah,
and 4-H are on.
great. And we don't have CCAT this year. So exciting. All right. Feels like something's changed. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. There you go. And the first item on our agenda is election of officers. And I would like to remind everybody, make sure you, if you have a mic, make sure you talk into it so people on the phone can hear us. So with that, it's election of officers. Do we have a nomination for Budget Committee Chair?
I nominate Bob Main.
Oh,
I'll
geez.
second that.
Oh, I wasn't fast enough.
All those in favor?
Wait a minute.
Aye.
What about others?
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Main, it's yours now. You should probably nominate a vice chair.
Yeah. Okay.
I nominate Greg Solars for vice chair.
A second.
Aye.
Any other nominations? Let's do this right this time.
There you go. It's
Do
a
I hear
beautiful
any
day
other
outside.
nominations for vice chair? Hearing none. All in favor for Greg?
Aye.
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 Okay. Let us start.
Hey, who's there? Can you tell me who's in the room?
Yes. We have Greg Solars, Bobby, Sven, myself.
Melissa.
What's her name? Melissa. And Megan, Nat, and Steve Shear, and the Public Access TV, and the sheriff. That's it.
And on the phone?
We have OSU and the library folks, both groups. And Neil.
And Neil.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's do the budget message, Melissa?
Sorry about that. All right. Do you want me to read it?
Please.
the pink tab in your binder.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it memorized.
You want mine?
Nope, I've got it.
Okay.
You really want me to read this whole thing?
Well,
All right.
I've already read it, so.
Well, there we go. Megan will read it. Megan just said she would read it. All right. I will read it.
okay.
I am pleased to deliver Coos County's budget message for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. This year, we will continue to have economic challenges, including the impact of continually declining revenues from secure rural schools funding from the federal government and costs that continue to rise at a rate that outpaces our revenue increases. At this time, we are also facing the ongoing challenges of fighting a pandemic, which has created an emergency situation, the likes of which we have never seen during our lifetime. This pandemic has caused not only concern for public health, but also a tremendous strain on the economic engine. You take your mic and go.
No, it's very soft. I can't hear you on the public access TV. Careful. There you go.
On the economic engine that keeps our society moving forward. We make our decisions on these budget priorities with the goal of improving the economic climate of Coos County at the forefront of our minds, as well as protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of our county. The Board of Commissioners establishes policy by passing ordinances and resolutions. However, the most important work that we do each year is pass the county's annual budget, which by law must be balanced. This budget is our policy statement for the essential services we provide. Our emphasis is on the services that are essential to our citizens: public health, public safety, and an adequate infrastructure, all of which allows Coos County residents to live, work, and play in a healthy and safe environment. The challenge of governing during economic and social challenges is all too familiar to us. Despite slow growth in revenues, our government has maintained services at the levels our citizens demand because this Board of Commissioners and the previous Board of Commissioners was prepared, and we continue to stay prepared. The other elected officials and department heads are good managers and have been creatively meeting the needs of government. The management abilities and work ethic of county employees are essential to producing the delivery of essential services. However, the challenge becomes more difficult every year, and we may have to consider the elimination of some services. The budget includes governmental and proprietary type funds. There are 30 governmental funds totaling $101,923,177 compared to fiscal year 2019-2020's total of $117,354,462. There are 5 proprietary funds totaling $8,245,837. Both the governmental and proprietary type funds have failed to keep pace with the increase in expenses, many of which are beyond our direct control, such as PERS and health insurance. In the year 2000, the county employed approximately 530, and for the year 2020, the county employs approximately 340 dedicated, highly skilled workers. 4 funds require the levying of ad valorem property taxes: the Coos County General Fund, the Bonded Debt Fund, the Library Service District Fund, and the 4-H Extension Service District Fund. The general fund's proposed expenditures for 2020-2021 total $26,483,074, which is a $1,738,761 increase from the current year's budget. General fund departments work together to find any opportunities for cost savings. Coos County's fixed tax rate of $1.799 per $1,000 of taxable value is budgeted at $5,519,160, up 5% from the current year. The remaining $20,963,914 of the general fund comes from resources other than taxes. Secure Rural Schools has been reauthorized, but at a decrease from previous years. We are in active discussions with the Bureau of Land Management regarding the correct calculation of tax payments from the Coos Bay Wagon Road lands, given the potential separation of these lands from the Secure Rural Schools formula. We have received a favorable ruling in a class action suit against the state of Oregon for the mismanagement of county forest trust lands. However, that judgment is currently being appealed by the state of Oregon. Also, the general fund received a transfer of $3,356,918 from the forestry fund. The general fund receives this transfer every year as shown in the table below. We continue to utilize Title III funding for search and rescue operations on federal lands. Personnel costs make up a significant portion of the county's expenditures. Overall, budgeted base salaries and wages, excluding insurance, PERS, taxes, and other benefits for the entire county, are down 0.07% from fiscal year 19-20. This is mostly due to the dissolution of the LNG fund that had 18 budgeted positions. In the general fund, budgeted base salaries are up 7%, primarily due to contractual wage obligations with our unions. We continue to experience retirements of long-time employees as the expected wave of baby boomer retirements comes to fruition. The bonded debt fund is for Coos County's outstanding bond issues. The levy needed to service debt is $1,388,382. The county has only the 2003B general obligation bonds outstanding. The 2003B general obligation bonds for the Coos County Natural Gas Pipeline as of June 30th, 2020 will total $3,680,000. The final bond payment on the 2003B series is in June of 2023. The Board of Commissioners also serve as the governing body for the Coos County Library Service District and 4-H Service Extension Districts, which are separate entities from Coos County. These service districts share common budget committee members and will also hold budget meetings in conjunction with Coos County. The proposed budget document accounts for the receipt, disbursement, and budgeting of all funds belonging to the library, 4-H Extension, and Coos County. The library service district's proposed expenditures total $4,041,747 with resources other than taxes of $213,000. The 4-H Extension Service District's proposed expenses total $713,946 with resources other than taxes of $247,500. The library rate is .7289 per thousand, and the 4-H extension rate is .0888 per thousand. It is important to thank our finance director and treasurer, Megan Sims, and her department for their tireless work in putting this budget together. They continue to do an amazing job and have been flexible and hardworking, even in the face of the changing workplace that we have experienced in light of the current pandemic. Our optimism for the future of Coos County persists. We will continue to work with elected officials, our legislators, county employees, and all of the citizens of Coos County to confront our collective challenges and strengthen our unique communities. The budget we adopt today helps us to fulfill that most important responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You'll need this pen.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now we will hear from 4-H and Extension Service District. Wiley Thompson. Are you on there?
Okay, I've unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good morning, the commissioners and budget committee and county professionals. Sheriff, appreciate everyone for letting us call in. And I will now read our budget message. If you have any questions, please interrupt me or ask along the way. The Coos County 4-H Extension Service District was formed in November 1998 through ballot measure 6-59. It provides local support for the 4-H and extension programs in Coos County. The district is authorized to collect ad valorem taxes at the rate of .0888 per $1,000 of assessed value on property within the county's borders. And these funds are dedicated to the district's operating expenses. The district completes the local budget process annually. The district's proposed budget includes a beginning balance of $225,000, revenues of $488,946, expenses of $500,015,269, and an operating contingency of $107,090 for a projected ending fund balance of $91,587. Note that the operating contingency would require additional board action to access, and if unused, the ending fund balance is expected to be $198,677. Forms LB20 and LB30 provide additional budget detail along with the current year's adopted budget and 2 years of actual financial activity for comparison. The Coos County 4-H Extension Service District, as a county service district, accrues and expends funds through a dedicated county-level account overseen by Treasurer Megan Sims. That account accepts tax revenues and related funds and pays audit and fairground expenses directly. All other extension services are purchased by the district through an intergovernmental agreement with Oregon State University Extension Service. OSU maintains an account that tracks expenses billable to the district along with credits and submits quarterly invoices for reimbursement. In addition, Extension maintains a third account at OSU to track income expenses not attributable to the district but important to the operation of the local extension office. Detail for all three accounts can be found on the supplemental income document titled 4-H Extension Budget Details for FY 20-21. To gain better understanding of the current year's fiscal activity, please refer to the supplemental budget detail document. The column labeled 2019-2020 anticipated offers my best estimate of where we started, what we will spend, what we will receive, and where we will finish the year on June 30th, 2020. I anticipate that Extension's cost for providing services will be less than budgeted. For the upcoming fiscal year, the proposed budget materials and services is based on actual data from prior years, adjusted for cost trends rather than simply scaling up or scaling down from the prior year's budget. The personal services budget is based on known cost data for salaries and other payroll expenses and should represent a very close estimate to the resources necessary to support these positions. We worked with County Treasurer Megan Sims to obtain revenue estimates for the upcoming fiscal year that we believe accurately reflect current property values and tax payment trends. The ending balance noted in the budget provides for cash flow during the period between the beginning of the budget year, July 1, and the point at which the district begins receiving the new year's revenue in November. The projected ending balance of $91,587 will be adequate for this function. The Extension Office is currently staffed by 7 OSU Extension faculty members whose salaries and benefits are paid almost exclusively by OSU from a combination of state, federal, and grant funds. These faculty members lead programs in 4-H youth development, agriculture, forestry, marine and coastal community development, family community health, and tourism and business development. The proposed budget includes funding for the following local staff positions: 1 full-time office assistant, 1.8 FTE office manager, 1 full-time 4-H educational program assistant, 1 full-time food program coordinating assistant coordinating the master gardener and master food preserver programs, 1.45 FTE student worker to assist activities during the summer, and 1.2 FTE custodian. A federal grant administered by OSU funds 1 part-time educational program assistant to deliver school-based nutrition education programs. This is our SNAP Ed program. Our faculty members also obtain a variety of agriculture, natural resources, and other grants to offset the cost of these activities. Note that all faculty members housed in Coos County, except 4-H, have assignments to provide services in Curry County too. Curry County, other than non-Coos funds, support these efforts. The proposed budget includes $16,000 to offset direct costs to 4-H activities at the Coos County Fair. The fair bills costs to 4-H exhibit judges, 4-H premiums, and 4-H use of the fairgrounds. 4-H ribbons are purchased with the district funds allocated to OSU. Extension provides additional in-kind support to the fair by assisting with the production of the fair book and daily schedules, identifying scheduling judges, tracking 4-H premiums, and allowing the fair to use 4-H fair management software at no charge. I would like to thank Treasurer Sims for her help in preparing this budget, and also offer sincere thanks to Shauna Horner and Alyssa for their work in preparation of these documents and the work they do throughout the year as well. Sincerely, Wiley Thompson, Regional Director and District Budget Officer. And ladies and gentlemen, I stand ready for your questions.
Any questions? On the phone questions? John, Neil?
No.
No.
Okay, let's move on then to Library Service District.
Hi, my name is Stacy Nixon. I'm the administrator for the Extended Service Office with the Coos County Library Service District.
Good morning.
And the Library Service District, CCLSD, through our 8 public libraries in the Extended Service Office, ESO, serve the information needs of the citizens of Coos County. CCLSD is a proud founding member of the Coastline Library Group, and this collaboration extends our ability to bring knowledge for the enrichment and entertainment of our county's populace. ESO coordinates centralized, shared services available to all library users. These services include internet access, IT support, interlibrary loan, and courier delivery of materials between CCLSD's libraries 6 days a week. ESO also provides direct library services to many non-traditional patrons in Coos County through several outreach programs. ESO receives its revenue from the property taxes of the citizens of Coos County. After ESO operating costs are deducted, the remaining tax funds, are distributed to the 8 public libraries in Coos County. This year, ESO is requesting a significantly larger portion of these funds due to the smaller amount being carried over from the previous year's budget. While ESO is requesting this larger portion, the overall ESO fund resources remain similar to years past. For the 2021 fiscal year, ESO will receive $799,313, with the remaining being distributed to the 8 public libraries using the attached formula. ESO has a total of 4.25 FTE employees. This includes a full-time ESO administrator, an outreach technician, an ILL technician, a courier driver, and a part-time cataloger. Line item changes in materials and services include increases in contractual due to the rise of our space rental fees for the City of Coos Bay and Bandon Public Library, as well as the authority control for our catalog we will have completed with Backstage. Stacy Nix, ESO Administrator, prepared this preliminary budget with input from the County Library Directors. A review was then done by the City of Coos Bay, who acts as the fiscal agent for the ESO, and refined before being presented here. The budget being presented has been reviewed and approved by the Coos Library Board. We ask that you approve and impose the library district tax rate of 0.7289 to fund the public libraries in Coos County and their district level programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Nathaniel Johnson, County Council, Risk Management.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so this is the risk management message with regard to the discretionary immunity aspect of the budget process. So risk management is the process of recognizing and responding to potential losses faced by the county, and part of the success of our program relies on what happens here in the budget process. And the reason for that is because in budget, many choices are made that have a direct impact on the county's exposure to liability. Because we have limited financial resources, the county must prioritize spending on some activities over others. Unfortunately, funding or failing to fund certain activities can result in an increased risk of claims against the county. The fortunate part is that the county can manage, got a lot of people coming on and off here. The county can manage and reduce this risk by using the defense of discretionary immunity. This defense may only be asserted if the county is vigilant and thorough in its budgetary process. Under discretionary immunity, the county is immune from liability for claims based on the consequences of a policy decision, in quotes. A policy decision will generally provide immunity if the decision included an assessment of policy factors such as political, financial, safety, or economic effects of implementing a particular course of action or not taking a course of action. Most germane to the budget process would be looking at the economic effects of taking a particular course of action and then weighing them against safety, political implications. I mean, that's what the budget committee does. How are we going to spend our limited resources, and documenting that we thought about the outcome. In the case of the budget, the policy decision is a decision regarding the funding of county activities, and the policymakers are you all, the budget committee. As with all legal defenses, the success of a discretionary immunity defense hinges upon adequate documentation. It doesn't matter what people think or what seems obvious. What matters is what is written and what is spoken and what is recorded. Here, in making decisions regarding the budget, you will need to openly acknowledge and consider the risks to public safety and other risks inherent in the decisions that you make. The identified risks must be clearly factored into your analysis of the costs and benefits of budgetary decisions. So as a part of that, maintenance, parks, and the road department will prepare lists of prioritized projects for fiscal year 2020, 2021 to include in the presentation with their budgets. These lists were created after considering potential liabilities and public safety risks. When these and other risk-related matters are presented to the Budget Committee, each of the particular risk-related issues should be described and discussed as much as possible, and the reasons for each policy decision by the Budget Committee should be discussed prior to each vote. After that's all done and a list has been completed, I will prepare an order establishing county priorities based on limited funding resources for adoption by the Board of Commissioners at a regularly scheduled meeting. Following this procedure will not only help the Budget Committee identify and mitigate risk, but will also help maximize the county's ability to assert discretionary immunity defense. And so my conclusion on this is sort of that I'm emphasizing a lot on how doing this will protect us from liability, but also it's an opportunity to really it's not just so we have a piece of paper to protect us from liability, it's so that we really think through what the consequences of all our actions are, so that we do create a budget that is best for the county and best for the public in keeping them safe.
Okay, questions for Nat?
None at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
At what time do you think we're going to get to the miscellaneous budget?
Well, we're about 45 minutes ahead right now.
Okay.
We can text you and let you know.
Yeah. Hello? Okay, if you're ready, we'll go ahead with the 4-H / Extension Service District budget. Wiley, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I am. Just had
Okay.
to find the unmute button.
Ah, okay.
It's the constant struggle.
It's a not smartphone in a not so smart guy's hands.
I know the feeling.
Okay, sir. Standing by for the questions.
I understand you're right, you're waiting for questions from us?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'd like to start off. Are there any questions after the message?
I don't see anybody. No, apparently not. So if you want to hit basically the highlights.
Okay. So Shauna and Alyssa, anything you would like to offer at the start?
This is Shauna. I don't have anything to add.
Okay.
Okay, and maybe nothing from Melissa. All right. So I'd like to start off with that we have had a change in the office administratively, and it will impact the budget slightly. Is Shauna was applied for and was moved from the position of an office specialist to an administrative office manager, which does have budget implications from a salary perspective. But what it did was put her in a position where we could take advantage of her budgeting and accounting skills to give stronger local oversight of the budget, and you're going to see that in the appropriation that goes towards the services that are contracted to OSU. That's part of that. The local county staff, the funding that goes to OSU that is then paid back to them in their salary, though we don't see a significant impact in that in the budget overall. But we're really excited to have Shauna and her and be able to better utilize her skills in that role. So any questions on that move in terms of that position?
I don't see any questions.
Okay. We're comfortable with our ending fund balance and where we sit there. Alyssa and I have talked about the building. There are some maintenance issues that are kind of coming up long term in terms of repair for the sidewalk, just things like that, which have the need to fix them, but also you don't want people tripping. You want to keep it safe. And so, how's the best way to go about taking care of that? We do have. It is kind of pricey. Concrete's it doesn't come cheap, but we're engaging the owners of the building to see what's the best way to go about that. But we feel comfortable either giving our the money in the reserves, or if we would have to use some of the contingency that we could work with the property owner to take care of those expenses. Beyond that, we do think that we might see a little bump on our ending fund balance as by virtue none of us are there today. We have had our travel curtailed in these last few months in terms of our in-person services, and so that would go back into our ending fund balance. What we do see is as we come out of this, some catch-up programming. So we might see a little more travel than we expected coming out of this, and so that might consume some of those funds. We have had the staff, to include the faculty, has seen the value in producing and putting the resources online and serving resources in more of a digital format. And when you look at our postage and mailing, you look at our duplicating and printing, which has actually gone down over time in terms of what we actually use. We may see that continue to constrict, but we know there's still an audience, and there are still some things that you have to do in hard copy or best served in hard copy, and so we will continue to invest in that area, though that is a small portion of our budget. But other than that, we greatly appreciate the support of the community, our budget committee, and the commissioners, and have no big concerns other than what a sort of a post-COVID world looks like, and how Extension can find new opportunities to serve in that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for him?
I have none.
Budget
I
committee?
have none.
No? Neil?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are we going to approve now
Mr.
or
Chair,
later?
do we need to take action on this?
Well, I was just thinking about that. I would assume we would right now, since the budget's pretty static for them.
I move tentative approval of the budget for a 4-H extension service.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of OSU 4-H extension budget? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, you're approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Library Service District budget.
All right, so I guess some of the main changes between last year and this year, our carryover balance was a lot lower, which is what we use to get us through the first 6 months of the year before we get our first check in November. The budget was a little too conservative last year, so that carryover was drastically lower, which is what is causing us to need to take more money for ESO services from the tax money. Aside from that, the budget is pretty straightforward. Salaries and everything is roughly the same. We are asking for a larger amount for our contractuals. Mainly our rent with the city of Coos Bay has increased a little bit, which is just due to our contract. The city of Bandon, their public library, is our transfer site for courier material transfer between Coos and Curry County. So we take up a little bit of space there with the materials that are there waiting for the transfer. So they're asking for a little bit reimbursement for that storage space. And then the big one is our authority control, which we do with a company called Backstage, and that's basically something that should be done a couple times a year. We haven't done it in the last couple years since we've combined our catalog with Curry County. It basically they overhaul our entire catalog and make all our biblio records concise. And the upfront is a little more expensive because they have to start from scratch. And then after that upfront, then we'll have that done about every 6 months. And that's all in that contractual. There was an error last year with our insurance line item. It was short $10,000. So that has been redone this year up to $14,000 from the $4,000 last year. Aside from that, we did increase our contingency for this year from last year to help offset that lower carryover so that we don't have that problem next year. And aside from that, that's pretty much it, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Any questions?
I do not.
Anyone else? On the phone, Neil or John?
No question? No.
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
Contractual,
Greg has one.
item 2108.
Item 2108, contractual, he's talking about.
Is that the rent in that? Or what?
He wants to know what.
Yes.
Okay.
So rent is included in our contractual, the rent for the city of Coos Bay, and the rent for Bandon, which is $2,000 for that transfer site storage. And then we also have the city of North Bend, which is where our servers are stored. We pay them $3,600 each year, and those are the three rents that are included in the contractual.
Okay, well, I was just wondering where the big jump was from who bumped you up?
Our rent went up with the city of Coos Bay. They had to offer us more accounting services, so it went up a little bit there. From last year, it went up about $7,000. And then the other big jump in contractual was due to that authority control that we're having done with Backstage. That's about a $10,000 to $14,000 fee to have our catalog refigured with them. Oh, and then we also did add $10,000 for new e-resources for digital content. One of the things that we're looking at is legal forms, companies that give us digital legal forms for all the libraries. And just with us being with this COVID-19, all the libraries are predominantly closed, so our digital content, our digital access, our e-books, our e-audio books, all that is being accessed more. So we did set aside a little bit for that in case we have to add more services for that.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So overall, you're about 15,000 more than last year.
For contractual or overall?
Well, it looks like overall, but 881 to 996.
Yeah, 881 to
wait a minute.
996, roughly 100,000.
Yeah,
Over.
115. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
12% or so.
Yep. Any other questions?
No, none for me.
Greg, any other questions?
No.
Sven? John or Neil?
No question? No.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve the library
I
service
move
district
we
budget.
tentatively approve the library budget.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Melissa? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much for the library service district.
Thank you.
Okay, now, we're way ahead, aren't we?
Doing good, Bob.
We're doing well, yes. We were supposed to start veterans at 11. It's only quarter after 9 or so. I have been unable to get a hold of Matt from Veterans. He had back surgery last week and a half ago. I don't know if he's going to present. Let's take about a 5-minute break. I'll go talk to the
Okay.
to the person in Veterans there that's doing the office work and see what's happening. So we're on break. We're in recess for about 5 minutes.
Okay. We could also ask Nat to come in earlier. We could move Nat in earlier too if you
Yeah.
wanted. So. I don't know.
So Sven, you talk to any of the other downtown people? Do they come over, people that operate businesses down, they stop by and talk to you at all, or?
A few. Everyone's real appreciative of the investment and the
Yeah.
improvements. Yeah.
I just wonder if maybe Burl come by, he's
Burl and Miladine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they stop by.
Yeah, they're watching from their window. They're watching across to the
Yeah.
activity.
They're nice people.
They are. They are.
Apparently he was gonna try and come in.
Really?
I guess so. I'll call him. But we could have, like you say, we could have Nat do the risk management early.
We could bump up miscellaneous.
Looks like the format out of a pickup truck.
Well,
probably what it is.
Pretty creative, so it's,
Morning, Nat.
anything's possible.
Yeah.
Bob. I texted you, but I didn't get an answer. And then I talked to your office manager. She said you were gonna try and come in for the budget? Oh, we are ready for you now if you're ready, or you wanna wait a little bit. Okay. We'll do risk management and some other things first. And you wanna just do it by phone? We can call you. Yeah, okay, you got a pencil?
396.
Good. 396? Yep. 7778. 7778.
I do 2 meetings a month.
When you're ready, you can call in and announce that you're there ready for your.
Bob, I'm going to mute you to take another call. Do I have a minute or two?
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye.
He must be feeling pretty good if he's thinking about coming in.
Well, I don't know. Didn't sound super good on the phone. Probably. So, I guess we could do county council law library and all that stuff. Who? Yeah, I had told him to call in instead of coming here.
What else? Some more styrofoam cups if anybody wants coffee.
Hello, I guess we are ready for you. Yeah, everything, law library, mediation, maintenance, risk management. We're way ahead. Oh, all right, we'll see you when you get here.
This way we can.
Okay, bye. So Nat's gonna collect his stuff and come on over, so.
Great.
He was thinking more like midday or. We got done way early today. We haven't had a lot of questions, so.
How long do you anticipate this to go today?
Well, at this point, Matt's gonna come and do county council, et cetera, and that was supposed to be 11:30, and it isn't even 9:30 yet.
I think we'll be done by noon.
We should be way early, yeah.
Do we need to let the surveyor and the planning department know to
Noonish. Yep, better,
bump those ahead?
yep,
She's right there.
planning's right there, but,
And are you meeting daily throughout the rest of the week too, or is this?
yeah, clear through Friday. Okay, Mikey.
Bob, while we're,
Yes?
this is John. While we're waiting, can I ask a question, kind of a procedural one?
Mm-hmm.
Depends.
And tell me when you need to start up again. Typically, at the end of each department's budget presentation, we give a tentative approval,
Right.
and then we move on.
We're gonna take you early, probably in an hour.
Pardon me?
He's on
Oh,
the
I'm
phone.
on the phone with,
That's,
Oh.
with survey.
that's correct, John.
We're
Okay,
listening to you, John.
so-
Go ahead.
All right, good.
Hmm?
It's hard. I'm sorry for being remote. It's difficult, and I'm sorry. Thank you all for putting up with this. Our budget's imbalance this year, in my mind, is so significantly different from years past. And any answers that we have to, or at least that I'm aware of, and that I have, for balancing the budget, bringing the budget into balance, are so drastic that I'm going to have a hard time tentatively approving anyone's budget. And that's where, because at the end, we're going to have a big, big imbalance to correct.
John,
What's his recommendation?
we are still live streaming, just so you know.
Yeah, okay. So, do we want to continue with that procedure?
I think we should discuss that when we get back in session.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll bring this up again.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You could just say, subject to further review or something, make it more loose.
Can't talk about it until we're back from recess.
Let's talk about something else.
Yes.
It's a beautiful day
Those are nice
outside.
pictures on the wall, aren't they?
Wasn't it gorgeous yesterday?
Yesterday was gorgeous.
We got some sun.
Yeah. Chase came in last night and said, "Do you have any aloe vera?" And, the light wasn't on in the kitchen. I turned it on, and his whole face was sunburned. His arms were sunburned. The whole bit. He was apparently out back in like one of those lawn chairs, one of the 0G ones, and fell asleep.
Ooh.
So.
We were outside the whole day.
Look at that. Bob's really handling things this morning. Yeah, there's coffee.
It must have been full,
Did you get your flower baskets planted at Copper Goose? do you get flower baskets during the summer? Do you hang flower baskets? We should start at that point.
If we,
My wife does.
if Nat's not ready,
Yeah. Does she plant her own? You guys have a greenhouse.
Yeah, we have, but, she's,
Oh, there
she
you
didn't do it last year because we had a lot going on, but she did it for several years before. She did like 5 baskets
Oh, okay.
a year, big one.
I saw that they're doing it now where you can just take your baskets out there and drop them off, and they'll plant them for you.
Oh,
If you're
yeah.
worried. So that's what I'm gonna do, not because I'm worried, but because I'm lazy, and if someone else will plant those baskets.
You can tell them kind of what you like too.
Well, yeah, and hers are gonna look a lot better than mine do. You know, just gonna tell her what colors I want.
Yeah.
Very excited about this opportunity. So Megan, if you decide to, like, even a sitting basket, it doesn't necessarily have to have a hole, and you can put a big giant coaster under it, so it doesn't make a mark on your fresh concrete. If you want it.
Sort of moving veterans back and
Yes.
hold up council.
Yes. All right.
You're Donald already? That was quick.
are we ready? I thought you were looking for something. I didn't want to start with that.
Nope.
Okay, we are back in session.
I
County
think John
Council.
might have some comments.
John, are you on?
Before we,
I'm on.
Okay, you wanted to talk about some stuff?
Yes. It's been our typical procedure in years past to tentatively approve each department's budget as it's presented. And generally speaking, in years past, at least in the back of my mind, I've had an idea of how to fill the budget gap that wasn't too severe. This is a different year than that. And do we want to leave each department head with a sense of false security by tentatively approving their budget as presented, or do we want to go through that and look for obvious cuts that they might make or changes they might make, knowing in the end something more drastic than that will likely have to take place? So what is an appropriate action?
Should separate the general fund from the others that have their own dedicated stream.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, the problem with that is there's other funds that affect the general fund. So, I mean,
Yeah,
we can just,
it's hard to separate the two.
yeah.
it's still tentative approval. I mean, the departments all know that that's no guarantee, and that at the end, what we end up doing is going back sometimes and cutting. I mean, if we need to do a disclaimer form, we can, but.
Yeah. Okay, I just don't want to leave them with the sense that when they leave the room on this first round, they're done, because I don't think they will be.
I remember what happened the first year I was here, so I don't have a false sense of security. I will say though that if we're going through a budget and people are having a thought like, hey, this might be something we can cut, I'm sure all department heads would appreciate having the opportunity to talk about it. Some you might want to hear from more than others, as far as whether that's something that maybe they can find the same cut somewhere else that they think is a lower priority. I know part of that's what the 10% cut is intended for, but if we're talking about somewhere in between 0 and 10, there could be different priorities. So just a thought.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think we ought to scrutinize their budgets to that degree. But if we're satisfied that we tentatively approve, I'm fine with that. But I just think it's a term that understates what I think will have to be done to balance the budget this year.
Yeah, we're in as not as good a shape this coming year as we were this present year or the previous years. we're still roughly, what, 2 mil short, Megan? We got an extra 100,000 in SRS funds, but we were about 2.1 short to begin with, so we're still roughly 2 million short in the general fund, if I remember right.
2.1.
Yeah, and we got an extra 100,000 in SRS.
I found 179,000 from SRS was an extra 77. I reworked the property taxes, got 10,000, and then the beginning balance I reworked and got 92,000 rounding.
Okay, so 1.9 roughly in commissioner numbers?
Yes.
Not, not treasurer.
Well, let's
numbers.
just adjourn the meeting. I'll let Megan go back to work. She's making good progress.
Yeah. And it's, I think you're right, John. It has to be a sense of urgency with department heads about,
Yeah.
okay, they present.
I don't care.
and we
Yeah, I
do-
don't care what action we take as long as we convey that to them.
Yeah, as we go through their budget and make any changes and then, impress upon them, they may be back with some cuts they don't like.
Yeah.
'Cause
All
it's-
right. That's my concern. I think we've addressed it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Neil, you have any thoughts about that?
I just assumed that everybody put their budgets together knowing that we were going to be way short and have presented a budget that's in line with reality as far as what our income's going to be.
Okay. Megan? Nobody?
They were all very
Melissa?
much aware.
Yep.
Neil, they were all very much aware going into this, yes, of what the budget situation was.
Okay.
Okay.
Sven? Same?
Yeah.
Same with you, Greg? Okay. All right, let's go with county council.
All right, so county council, we'll start with council's office, I assume. So regular wages, our first step here, doesn't go up much from last year, 376,307.
Hi, this is Matt with Dutchman.
Okay, hi, Matt.
Hey.
Hang on, we'll go through the county council budget first, and then we'll take you.
Okay.
Okay, so it only goes up a couple thousand. We had a long-term office manager who has had some longevity that is no longer with us, so that keeps that under control. I did put in extra help that we didn't have last year, and the reason I put it in is because we have a new office manager who is being trained by our former office manager who is being paid as extra help. That was an office manager that has worked for the county in council's office for more than 30 years, so it's kind of hard to replace that individual. As you can see, it only says 168 year-to-date actual there, but bear in mind that we hired the new office manager in December, so it didn't get the opportunity to rack that up, and now we're in the COVID-19 thing where people don't really want to be coming in and exposing themselves if we don't want them to either. Supplies, we've put down 4,500, which represents quite the increase. Honestly, last adopted was 2,500. We could probably get by with that. There's a reason we put it. My office manager is gone, so I'm not entirely certain. Info technology, 7,000. We need to purchase 2 computers that we do need to purchase. We would also like to purchase a new printer and scanner. Once again, it's one of those things where in an ideal world, I'd have a good scanner in my office that I could use that didn't scan things sideways. But there's also a scanner down the hall that can be used as well. Insurance premiums, $3,748. This is a number that we get It's estimated by the treasurer. It's not something that can really be messed around with. Safety program, 12,500. That's the same as we budgeted last year. That creates a fund where we have an online program that we have a subscription that's paid out of that fund. There's also safety summits, equipment that's requested of the safety committee to make people more safe in the workplace. Comes out of there. So that's what that is. Training and travel, 11,260. I've added in some training for a new office manager because there's some paralegal certification trainings that you can do online that might be good for someone coming in to make sure that they are having all the skills that we need. Software licenses, we've added in a $39 monthly case management and record management system for council's office, which is different from what we're using now, which would allow us to have our files stored in electronic format in a better fashion. Currently, we use a old program that is so old that when they reconfigure the server, sometimes they get rid of it because they figure we're not using it anymore. Contracted services, this is where the main increase comes from. Last year we were at 93,607, and then here it's 122,450. If you look up, most of the increase comes from contracting for pay equity analysis, and I just want to explain that for a second here. We conducted a pay equity analysis at the county, which is something that we're supposed to do under Oregon law now. It provides us with some insulation for discrimination claims, against discrimination claims. The law states that the pay equity analysis must be reasonable in scope. I believe the one that we did was. However, what we're seeing is more and more jurisdictions and entities are having consulting firms look at all their job descriptions, make sure that they're uniform, and create a standardized matrix for all of them. And as more and more people do that, there's more and more concern about whether that becomes a standard that people are going to look at for whether you did a reasonable pay equity analysis. And so it's 25,000. I know it's a lot, especially in the budget this year, but you know, $25,000 isn't a lot if you're getting out of a lawsuit. Even a lawsuit you're going to win, because you know our deductible budget is pretty big, and we have a high deductible, and we end up paying a lot of attorney's fees sometimes just to get out of a case. And if we can get out earlier, then that would be worth it, but you never know. So that's.
You might explain the pay equity. The
Right, so-
legislature did what?
Yeah, so basically there's a pay equity law that was passed that essentially last year that essentially says that if we conduct a pay equity analysis and we are subject to a bully complaint or lawsuit by an individual alleging that they were paid less because they are in a protected class, if we've done a pay equity analysis of that person's position in the last 3 years in good faith and that was reasonable in scope, then we should be able to get out of the case on summary judgment, as in they won't be able to bring that claim against us for those 3 years. So basically, we don't have to do a pay equity analysis. The law doesn't say we have to, but it gives us an incentive to do it, because if we do it and it is sufficient, we should be able to defend claims alleging discrimination.
But to back up even further, though, legislature decided that counties, cities, et cetera, had to do a pay equity analysis of all of their employees, so that employees doing a specific job in one department and employees doing this roughly the same specific job in another department were all being paid the same. If not, we can be held, if we didn't do an analysis and didn't do the corrections, then we could be held somewhat liable, I guess.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing, and it's an ongoing thing. It's never really done because we're always adding new positions,
And you,
getting rid of old positions. We're always doing union negotiations, which change people's wages too. So
let's say you had 3 people in the health department, I'm just not specific, just picking something. We're doing a specific job at $3,000 a month. You had 7 people in the courthouse, let's say in the assessor's office, doing relatively the same job at $2,500 a month. Okay? You have to raise those folks at $2,500 a month to the $3,000 a month, even though they're entirely different funding. The health department gets funding from state and federal agencies, whereas the assessor's office gets it from the general fund. Now, to raise those folks in the assessor's office by $500 a month, you cannot lay off anybody either, because you don't have any money in the general fund. That's not allowable. It makes the general fund budget not so much fun this current year. That's part of the reason we had a big jump in the general fund budget.
So that's why they put a D on the end of it. Otherwise, we just call it the general fund budget.
Yeah. It's not, it was quite a blow to find out that. I found out at the assessor's conference, yeah. The commissioners' conference last November. I attended a couple of seminars and went, what? And apparently Coos and another county, Wasco, had started. Nobody else across the state had even started yet. It's quite a change in salary and benefits for employees across the state, although the state didn't offer to add any financial incentive to their particular passage of that particular statute, but
of course not.
of course not, yeah.
And I can go through my 10% reduction as well.
Sure.
This was not too difficult for our office, fortunately. Cutting contracted services, 54,450. Cutting the safety fund to 7,500. Cutting the extra help to 2,500 does it. And if you look at contracted services, year to date as of 1/23/2020 was 47,190, which means that we're probably over that 54,450 right now. So obviously that impacts, the ability to hire outside attorneys and outside consultants, because we're looking at the HR and counsel's office side, so it's not always attorneys. That doesn't leave much in there besides the cost allocation, but it's something that it could come back to bite me if I needed something and I couldn't afford it, but at the same time, it's way better than having to say it would take cutting a position or something to make the 10% cut. So I think we could manage. All right, so any questions on all that?
Questions for Nat? John? Neil?
No.
Nobody else?
I don't.
Do we want to accept,
Actually, I have
oh, Megan?
minor changes.
Okay.
For FICA, in his regular budget, it should be 29,555, and then software license and maintenance to match the detail would be 2024 instead of 2040, and that would make the total 792,570. And the FICA just includes the extra help.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so you want to
With
have a
those
tentative-
changes, I move to tentatively approve.
The,
the
which
budget.
one? The minus 10% of the standard budget?
No, I think we should stick with the standard budget for now.
Okay. So Melissa's going to propose sticking with the standard budget at the moment.
Yes.
Do I have a second with Melissa's proposal?
And I'm not
Greg.
proposing that because I'm saying that we are definitely going to stick with this budget, just to be clear.
Uh-huh.
But what I am saying is in the past, we have applied the 10% to maybe the first departments and have not managed to apply it uniformly across the board. And some departments have lost their 10 key calculators while other departments have gone to conferences. And so I just want to make sure we're very fair about this.
Seems reasonable. We have done that in the past, what
Yes.
you're saying.
Who lost their
Yes.
10 key calculators?
All right. Any other discussion about standard budget tentative approval for county council? John and Neil? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. I would say, though, that on county council, Nat has been doing an amazing job. He got thrown into this a couple of years ago, and he has excelled. I'm very pleased. Very pleased. Now you can float on out of here.
Well, thank you. It's, makes me, yeah.
I know,
Got some more.
I
I'm
know.
done with my presentation.
But he has
yet.
done an amazing job.
It makes me, well,
Yeah.
thank you, I appreciate it.
And a
Makes
lot
me
of,
scared.
a lot of volume of work comes out of that office.
Yes.
And he has been by himself for quite a bit of the time. His office, what do you call, executive assistant, I don't know what the term is, has been out quite a while. She was in a car accident, and we haven't had an assistant counsel for quite a while, so it has been all up to Nat, and he's done a great job.
Well, thank you.
Mhm.
You might be planning some ideas about the budget there, though, so. I don't.
He did just
I want
fine
some
all by
time off,
himself.
okay? Like,
Yeah.
see.
Uh-oh. Okay, let's move on
Appreciate
to
it, though.
law library.
Okay, so this is one of those ones where it's a nice little pot of money that's accumulating, but we can't do anything with it, other than law library, which I regret to say, despite all the great work I've been doing, I haven't managed to come up with any ideas to rejuvenate the law library in any way, shape, or form.
Turn it into a profit center.
Yeah, it is a nice little refuge down there, though. It's a little musty, but, you know, not bad. So, with regard to the law library, we have extra help. That's $3,000. Last year was $2,660, and that's you know, just someone to throw out old musty books and put new ones on the shelf and do all those sorts of things down there, if we do that. Cost allocation or other expenses, $332,526. The cost allocation is, oh gosh, how do I read this here?
$11,906.
Okay.
And
So,
I did just look at it, I don't have them all memorized.
oh, okay.
Just to be clear.
That's good to know. So basically, that's a lot of money sitting there that can be used for only law library purposes, and there isn't a huge demand for the law library in my experience. Though we do let people down there now, so that's a good improvement. Info technology, $500. New copier printer. People do go down there and read some of the bar books and make copies with regard to figuring out how to represent themselves in family law cases and things like that. Equipment, there's $5,000 for shelving. It was in there last year. Nothing was spent. Books and subscriptions, $40,000. That would be, we could get Lexus or Westlaw or two legal research subscriptions and make them available down there. And it was done in the past, and it hasn't been done in recent years because there was a lot of money going out to not have anyone really use it. However, the money is there, and we're limited in what we can do with it, so it's something to keep in there as something to look at. And then general fund, this is paid to the general fund for space, utilities, and staff time. It's $3,000 and $3,094 for this year, and that's law library.
Questions for law library?
Not for me.
Greg? Sven? No? John? Neil?
We have looked at various ways of making the law library better utilized.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, none of those have really panned out for various reasons. We looked at moving the extended services office for the library service district over, but they are okay at their space where they're at right now. We've also looked at potentially moving all the law library services online, but the judges had a lot of concerns about that. They like
Access.
having the paper books and the access, and so we continue to look at ways to
Right.
modernize it.
And a similar one would be having it an IGA to transfer the funds we get to run the law library to one of the libraries in the county, and they could just have a portion of their library where they make that available, and they would probably get a lot more usage and have things. They're librarians after all. But, similarly, questions arise with regard to people, judges liking it to be here at the courthouse, even though it's not used that much. It's sort of something they want to have there, so.
I think they like knowing that resource is there if they need to send a pro se litigant that way.
Right, and it's right here, so if people are already at the court, they can just go down there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So access issues, though some counties do have an agreement with libraries to run it for them.
Yeah.
So,
Any other comments about library fund?
Well, two expenses that kind of stand out in my mind, this is John, are the information technology expense of $5,500 and the books and subscriptions of $40,000. We've done without those in times past.
And we could, but these are all dedicated funds, right? So if we reduce it, it doesn't take any, it doesn't add any money
It
back into the
doesn't
general
affect the
fund.
general
Sorry.
fund any.
I'm staring at Megan to make sure I'm
all
right.
I'm
She's
sorry.
nodding.
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, it's aspirational budgeting there with that. So.
Okay. I would entertain a motion for library fund.
Tentatively approved, sir.
Tentatively approved.
May I have a second? Greg seconds. Discussion about that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All righty. Mediation.
Okay, so for mediation, our total for this year requested is $214,642. That's $2,000 in supplies, $212,642 in contracted services. Supplies are used for mediation as needed, and contracted services are for mediation services. And that's about all I have to say with this one. This is not general fund money. This is money that comes in through the court system, and it's to be used for providing mediation related to family law cases to attempt to resolve them. And I think it's a mandatory thing that they have to go through as part of a family law case that involves children.
I move tentative approval.
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. All righty. Do you want to go ahead and do risk management while you're here?
Oh, I did.
Can I make a comment? This backs up a little bit to, I think, the county council's general, or county council presentation of his own office. There was a small increase, well, it wasn't the same as last year, but it's an increase over years prior for safety-related things. And that would be an easy place to cut, but I'd like to ask Melissa to talk about, or Megan, to talk about the payments that we've received largely into the general fund, reimbursement for past premiums that came to us because of the safety program. I would hate to see us reduce several $1,000s out of the safety program and risk the gains that we've seen from that. So could either Megan or Melissa tell us about what we've been able to get in terms of insurance refunds this past year?
So we recently got $372,340.51 from SAFE for the retro payment. Do you want to explain?
No,
The
go ahead and explain the
retro?
retro payment, Megan. What it is essentially, I mean, I think we can do the high level view of it, which is it's money that we get back for not having claims, essentially.
We
And-
paid it out initially.
Right, we pay it out initially, but we get a chunk of money back if we don't have over a certain number of claims. The more exciting part to me, and I love getting that money back, I also love the money that we don't pay, which is our experience rating, our mod, is below 1 for the first time since, I was trying to remember the year,
For a long, long time.
a long time,
Oh,
at
yeah.
least 10 years. I think
Yeah, I think
it's
it's
like
15,
17
yeah.
years or something. So we have the best claims rating that we've had I know in at least 10 years. I think it's closer to 20. And that, when we first started discussing this safety issue, we were in danger of falling into the open risk pool, which would have doubled our workers' comp rates. So the fact that we have made that level of change in 3 years is just really, truly impressive and speaks to the fact that our department heads and our staff have all really embraced this idea that safety is important and safety needs to be a priority. So, and I think that's great. You know, it pays us back fiscally, but it's also employees that are going home safe at the end of every day like they should be.
Again, how much money did we get returned? Just to emphasize it. Huh?
300,000.
Yeah, I just wanted to reemphasize that.
So much for my inspirational speech there, Bob.
Well, no.
Again, how much money?
After your informational, people
I think
It's
it's
so
a little more than half.
enamored with your speech, they forget about the numbers.
Maybe more.
That spans over 5 years, I believe,
Yeah, it's
the
an
retro
average.
payment.
Yeah,
Average.
it does not
Yeah.
come back at once.
Yeah, so we kind of get a little bit from each year, and as they close out a year, so it's a big formula.
It's a rolling average.
All right.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, Nat,
We already did the risk management.
Yeah. I could do the.
that's
Yeah,
it?
so the other one that usually in there is for maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
okay.
do that one.
Yeah, I see that one.
And that's here to also do miscellaneous.
Yeah, I can do my miscellaneous
Sure.
items, which are settlements and insurance deductibles. So with regard to settlements, last year we adopted $50,000, and I'm proposing to keep that at $50,000. Currently, we've only spent $281 out of settlements, so not a huge amount. However, 2018-19, we spent $42,000. So obviously, settlements are the sort of things that are variable, and so I'm proposing to keep that the same. With regard to insurance deductibles, last year we adopted $230,000, and this year I'm proposing $300,000. And the reason for that is that I have some suspicion that if we adopt it for $300,000, we're going to use it. And if we
What
don't,
if we adopt it for 200,000?
well, then we're going to use that, and then we're going to get it from somewhere else.
Okay.
So, it'll give a more accurate picture of what it's going to be worth. The reason I think that is because we have a high deductible plan. We have liability that stretches back to the 2016-17 year, where we have, for example, $249,000 of remaining liability with CIS reserves in excess of remaining liability, and that means that they've set aside that much for the settlement of cases, perhaps. So if you look, it's just a numbers. Looking at our deductible, adding it up, we have a potential of $700,000 roughly in liability. Now, that's all not, we're not going to use all of that, but I just think prudent number would be 300,000.
And that's all you have in miscellaneous?
Correct.
Okay.
You were talking about CIS and the amount.
Yeah.
That's one of my areas of irritation, I guess. CIS, in my opinion, does a lot of out-of-court settlements, and I don't think they should. They just seem like they encourage more court cases or potential court cases, and then they go and settle those out of court. And it's
Right.
not really out of their pocket, it's out of ours.
Well, and I want to be really careful here. If I'm saying we have open claims in these years and we have reserves set aside, so I don't want to be giving the idea that I'm sitting here saying we're looking to potentially settle any particular case. Those reserves can also be used for litigating it all the way through trial.
Right, I'm talking about past history, looking
Right.
at what they've done.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear.
They, meaning CIS.
Yeah, so we have insurance with CIS, and part of that policy coverage is, part of the contract is that they can settle claims when they want to.
Yeah.
That's, most insurance is going to have that clause in it, unfortunately.
I understand that, but it just seems like they tend to, with their actions, in my opinion, tend to encourage claims. No need for agreement on anybody's part here, but just my opinion and observing what they've been doing in the past years that I've been here. Enough of my speech, I guess.
Well, I think you raise a good point. It's worth talking. AOC has 2 representatives on the CIS board, 3. Our executive director, Bill Elfring out from Umatilla, and Ralph Wyatt from Lynn County. I would encourage you to call them and tell them about your
Yeah.
concerns.
Okay. Any other discussion about general fund miscellaneous?
Well, we're just gonna do Nat's part, right?
Mhm.
Come back and look at the rest?
Yeah, we'll do the
Okay.
others part.
Okay, because I have questions on some other stuff.
Okay. All right. Set that aside then. Thank you, Nat.
Thank you.
Matt, are you on the phone?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Let's go through the veterans' budget.
Okay.
Matt just recently had surgery, back surgery, so
Thanks, Nat.
he's been working from home and doing a good job in that respect. And just so happens it kind of coincided with the whole COVID-19 type thing, so it worked out well for him. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, so would you like me to just go line from line?
No, actually, probably just the major changes that you might see.
Okay. Well, the major change is with the regular wages. We had about 18,500 carryover from last year, and this year we're going to be having about 36,924 carryover, so we do have a little bit more money to budget in, and with that, a lot of that's going into other expenses, and let's see here. Other expenses have increased from 4,776 to 18,768. Most of that is for office supplies, membership fees, toner, business cards, and outreach. So that's definitely going to help our departments be able to do some really good in the community. 5,000 and less. Infotech did get an increase from 283 to 5,883. I think this is going to be really beneficial for us to update our computer software and hardware. So that's definitely going to get us to make some changes, especially over in the Coos Bay office, to where it will be more user-friendly for our veterans when they come in. So I'm pretty excited about that. Those, I believe, are the major changes. We also allocated quite a bit for training and travel. My goal is to be able to get both me and Denise to have accreditation as veteran service officers, so the county has two, which we really do need with the amount of veterans in our community. Besides that, we've got red vehicle, so that's not going to be an issue. And that's pretty much the main changes. Contracted services did see an increase because of that cost allocation or change. And that's pretty much all I believe are the main changes. Yeah.
Okay, questions for Matt?
This is all dedicated funds, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's in the general fund, but we are required to contribute $53,246 every year. And then the Veterans Department of the state does their contribution, and that's the money he gets to spend.
Yeah, and none of that has changed from last year. It's the carryover is really what's why you're seeing such a different change from the 2019 budget to the 2021.
Okay. Questions? John, do you have any questions, or Neil?
No, I do not.
No.
Greg? Sven? No? Motion?
What about me?
Tentatively, move to tentatively approve.
Well, I knew you would just jump right in. The rest of them are a little bit shy.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, then I'll move to tentatively approve the budget for veterans.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nope. Carried. Thank you, Matt.
Absolutely.
Okay, county surveyors here. We can take them early. They're supposed to be at 2:45, and it's only a little 10 after 10, roughly.
Perfect time.
We're moving right along. Bobby, can you get a hold of Mike for maintenance?
Okay.
We have the survey.
Okay, Mike, you're gonna start?
Well, the biggest change that we had this year was that we took a lot more money out of Land Corner last year that wasn't sustainable, and so we had to adjust our numbers for that.
Okay,
And we increased our budget for road by so the Land Corner, we took 55.9 last year, and we're only proposing 26 this year because the amount of money in there is way down.
that is replenished by how?
The Land Corner Preservation Fund is replenished by part in
Like
each deed that
recording
is,
fees.
each deed that's recorded, a portion of it goes to the
Right.
Land Corner Fund.
I know you know, and I know, the rest of us know, but not everybody on the television out there knows.
Okay.
Correct, and so that's a fund that has been being depleted over the years, and we knew it couldn't sustain that with the fluctuation in the markets, and so we just tried to cross-train some of our employees that work mostly in Land Corner anyway, to therefore take that percentage off of those of us that don't work in Land Corner as much, so that they're still working in the same field and pulling the same pay from that particular fund, in addition to me doing it as well. And so we've cross-trained them so that they can continue to pull from that fund and not have as much being taken out. And our general fund last year, we made a large cut last year before it was requested. We deducted 22% last year, and therefore depleted our corner restoration fund in doing so, but it met with what we were doing at the time as well. And we've also removed on the general fund for revenue at the top, we put our foreclosed property reimbursements that we pay first out of our general fund, and then we get reimbursed at the end of the year by the land sale funds. Yeah, which we will
won't
not,
have
this
this year.
fiscal year, we will not be having one, in case everyone did not know that. We had one scheduled for this Saturday and therefore canceled it. And the only other time we could do it would be May 16th, which is not long enough for us to have the 4 consecutive weeks of advertising. Plus, it's a very optimistic date. So we went ahead and forego for this fiscal year and having one of those due to the pandemic. And so that was our goal, was that's the reimbursement that we normally get from the land sale, that reimburse our general fund for doing those duties. And then the services to county departments, we were increasing our road budget. We've done a lot more road projects, and we increased our road budget, but didn't take into consideration a lot of the projects that we have been doing have been parks and solid waste, which get billed to a separate county department instead of road. So we took what we would be billing parks and solid waste out and showed it services to county departments at the top, so that it removes it from the road budget, and therefore keeps our road budget back in line with actually doing road projects. Those are the major changes that we've done, in addition to some small increases in wages and annual steps that people will be receiving. That's the main changes that we've gotten.
And we're also asking to reinstate that $500 a month stipend for Desiree for the land agent duties that was taken away last year.
It was given to us the first year that we started doing the land agent duties in the 2018-2019 fiscal year, and we both received it at that time, and then with the reclassification, that was removed for the 2019-2020 year. And we also had our part-time land agent retire, and so therefore his duties fell back onto me. And so we were just having that reinstated. We didn't rehire another part-time land agent, so we've absorbed those duties within us and therefore saved the county the $27,767 that he was getting paid annually for those duties. So essentially saving money, but reinstating the stipend, which is a $500 a month stipend. So fully loaded, it comes to like 8,000 and change for a year.
And when you sold property, how much did you generally sell?
Last year we made over, or I guess the last auction we had in May of last year, our gross was over $500,000.
Wow,
And we sold every single property.
over
The last
500,
one
over
being-
500,000.
Yeah, with the last one being 2 months ago, we sold off that list.
Wow.
So we were,
Good.
we were bummed that we couldn't have another sale because we were really looking forward to always, doing the best that we can to make money for the county, but at the same time to get those properties back on the tax roll. So.
I noticed you got Greg's attention.
Like the land tycoon there.
Yeah.
Now, just to be clear, the county doesn't get all of that money.
Yeah.
We get reimbursed for our costs, and then it gets distributed the same way property taxes are distributed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, depending on which.
Taxing districts, but, it's a big number, and so the more you make, the more eventually that percentage
Mhm.
trickles down, and they get back on the tax roll is our main goal.
The key thing is that we get reimbursed for our costs.
Correct.
So the increase they're asking for would come out of the increase in cost, reimbursement.
So you
Which,
got the boss on Cadillac,
yeah,
with the big horns on the hood.
That's right.
You drive up to all these properties and foreclose on them.
which in looking back at what our, possible reimbursement was, is actually roughly the same, even though we have one, less person that we're paying wages, we've got an increase in
Right.
money coming.
And the
through
best
door.
part is cleaning up those properties.
Mhm.
Every one of those properties that we've picked up, especially if there's a home on it, is just a horrible mess. And
Yeah.
blight on the neighborhood and a load on the police, whatever police department
Services
has
them.
to deal with them.
And we get a lot of feedback from neighbors saying, thank you so much. They're out high-fiving our crew, saying that it's so awesome that their neighborhood looks better and that they've, done a great service. And so
Most
they're,
of them have to be demolished and
Mhm.
removed.
And that's why the neighbors are all happy, because they got a
Yeah.
nice clean lot instead of an eyesore that was attracting folks that
yeah, or
not
pets.
necessarily, yeah.
Yeah, lots of animals that get taken
Mhm.
to the animal control that are left behind and stuff. And so it really does a great service to the neighborhood as well, in addition to all the taxing districts and getting them back on the tax roll. So,
Mhm. And John Sweet gets credit for that, because he's the one that first came up with the idea just to wipe them out and have the road department come in with an excavator and dump trucks, clean it up slick, and then sell a nice
Yeah.
empty lot.
well, we salvage whatever we can as far as, something that's redeemable, but, a lot of them have been so far gone that that's not the case. And so
Mhm.
it really presents more of a challenge for us to try and clean it as opposed to pushing it into a pile, unfortunately.
The cleanups can be quite the challenge. We'll talk to you off camera, after lunch is over and everything else about some of their cleanup escapades.
Yeah, and some of them are quite costly as well,
Yes.
to try and remove all of the garbage or motorhomes or animals or debris that's left or hazardous waste. If there's abatement that's required on something, and to remove that safely before we demolish the home, and sometimes that can be quite costly, in the thousands of dollars, to remove any asbestos or unhealthy materials that are lurking. And so we do our best to make sure that we inspect first before any demolish is done, so we can make sure that they go to the proper disposal units.
you wouldn't believe some of the pictures. And people were actually, I wouldn't say residing there, they were there with those conditions.
So,
It's a challenge.
yeah. But we really like working with the public and helping these people and talk to them before they're removed from their home to give them options of where to go and to discuss further with the commissioners, even with how to go about helping them in some way. And cleaning up the county is our main goal. But we like working with the neighbors and the people and everything. It's
One of the beauties of cleaning up these properties the way the land agent is currently doing it is that the cost of this, rather than being borne by just one person, which would be the case if we put it back on the market as is, it would likely not happen, or being borne by just the county, the cost is shared by all of the taxing districts in the form of slightly reduced contributions from sale of these foreclosed properties. And so it spreads the cost, so it's nearly inconsequential to the individual taxing districts, and yet it provides for a big improvement in the property itself and in the neighborhood in which the property lies.
Any other
I
discussion?
tentatively approve survey's budget.
Okay, do I have a second? Greg seconds. Discussion?
I have a question.
Yeah, Sven?
There's a 10% reduction budget in here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us the highlights between your normal, your presented, and your 10% reduction?
we had to present a 10% reduction, just for the idea. Unfortunately, though, in order for us to reduce anything, we would have to cut a person. And in order to do that, we wouldn't have a field crew, because you can't send one guy out into the woods. It's not safe. And in doing that, it just puts a kink in every aspect. We're only 4 people in our office, and so we're a close-knit group. We work really well together. We share,
We can't lose another person. You're down to bare
Yeah.
bones right now.
and when he started, he had 2 survey crews and
Yeah.
how many people working
Well,
for
there
you?
were 7 people in the survey department in 2011, and now there's 4 of us. And so,
Yeah, and so it's been cut drastically over the years due to need or retirement or budget, and in doing, we just can't, as far as safety is concerned, cut a person.
and when we were asked to reduce by 10%, if we removed everything else besides wages, it still only dropped at about 4%. And so the only way to meet the 10% was to propose,
Personnel.
dropping a person. But if we lose one, we might as well lose both of them, because one guy can't, you can't work safely in the woods by himself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. You're welcome. To motion again, or?
Okay, after that discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? Thank you.
Thank you for.
It's a
seeing us-
tentative, of course.
Yes, thank you for seeing us early.
Do we wanna go through land corner and their road portion, or?
I don't have that on the schedule, but we certainly could while they're here. We wouldn't have to come back.
It's
in the
all,
packet.
it's
I
all in
know,
the
but
packet.
it's
and
not on the
We kind
schedule.
of went through most of it, but we can certainly,
That's what I thought it was too. What was the motion? Let's clarify the motion. Mr. Chairman?
Well, I thought it was just for their survey budget and corner restoration and their budget when they do outside work, like for the county road department, et cetera, but,
it's all bulked together,
and
really.
corner
There's
restoration.
Separate funds, but they're all,
If you've already saw what you needed to see, then I'm good, I just wanted.
That's what I thought it was for,
Okay,
because we talked about it all.
okay.
Okay, we're good then.
All right.
That's what I thought. And, never mind.
I agree with Bob on that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
County Maintenance Department, Michael and Virginia.
Thank you for the hand sanitizer.
You're welcome. Starting to run low myself now.
Bob told me he's gonna start making it.
I did. I made my own hand sanitizer. I went to the liquor store and got Everclear.
Okay,
I went to
don't
the
need to hear anymore, Bob.
went to the health food store,
And dips his hands in it. That's what he tells me.
Discretionary list,
Yeah.
and I got at the health food store. I got aloe vera
Sanitizer
to mix with
goes.
it at 70-30, and it works out really well.
Should I put that on the discretionary list here for next year?
You're not supposed to lick your fingers though after you use it.
Maybe
As
on the
a co-
discretionary immunity list in case it loses itself.
Both of them are actually highly edible because the Everclear is ethyl alcohol. You don't want to be using methyl alcohol. That's an ugly one. That's
I think he drinks it and thinks that it's systemic.
well, it gives you a sense of well-being, I guess, huh?
Do we need a kids don't try this at home disclaimer on this one?
Oh,
Bob is
my.
a trained professional.
Sometimes unintended consequences really get you in trouble. Yeah, I'm being supported by the sheriff over there in the corner. He says it cleaning from the inside out.
Okay.
Yeah.
One way to do it, I guess.
All right, your budget now.
And you want to start off with the, what's that?
Status quo.
Yeah, the status quo budget?
Yes.
Okay. First, the front page, I'm assuming everybody has the same as what I'm looking at. How it breaks down how the department is. As we go through, if you need me to stop on something, let me know. Our wages and that sort, the personal service combined is we have a total increase of $12,338. That is essentially the wages for the employees for the maintenance department. Those are kind of a line item that, as far as the maintenance director, I don't have control over. So if we go down to materials and services, we've kept our supplies at the same, our minor R&I, whereas you look through, we're trying to keep everything without any increases. Then we come to the insurance premiums. We have an increase there, very little. Fuel, we've chopped away at our fuel expenditures. For right now, with fuel going down, I don't have to say that it's gonna cost us more, I guess. But with the fuels, we've been able to drop down because we are currently not running 2 of the boilers here in Coquille. So that makes an increase for us. Our utilities, we did do a decrease of $2,850 on that. That, I know there had been some discussion, the possibility of decreasing that more. I will have some increased utilities due to, I'm in the process of putting, the hot water heaters, the Insta-Hots. Those all run on 110 and they're not as efficient as if we were able to have, more of a central boilers. But due to the plumbing of the courthouse, that's just not something that's feasible either, so. Travel, we dropped that down. We left the $500 in there, so if we do have something that comes up that we'd like to go to for some of the training stuff. Vehicle expenses. So, by going through the whole list, we've got an increase of $4,392. Or I'm sorry, that was for contracted services, an increase. We negotiated, we tried to do a couple things, but we're bonded by our contracted services. We've got elevators, we're at the mercy of the people that are doing our contracts. We try to go out, but there's just not a lot of places to go out for like a bid process on it, especially for elevators is a good example. But we were able to do a decrease of, I know it ain't much, $941. We work really hard at the maintenance department, excuse me for a second, to do what we can to save throughout the year so that we are able to give back if we don't use all of our funding. We work really hard to be able to do that, so we use what we need and not what you give us. We try really hard at that. So if you go down to the maintenance total, you're looking at an increase of $11,461.
Did you want to talk about revenue?
Go ahead.
We currently are projecting approximately $15,000 in revenue from Coos Health and Wellness. There could be more from there once we finish billing for the year, but we don't know exactly how much that will be based on how much they decide to use us. So we've already billed them for approximately $13,000, I believe, and they've paid that. That was through September. And then the work orders from Coos Health and Wellness slowed down significantly when they realized how much they were using maintenance and how much it was going to cost. So, but the maintenance crew has been busy with the Parks Department doing, helping them with renovations and saving them money by using our staff and using the cost allocation that they pay for maintenance. We've worked with the road department and fair, we've worked for a lot of the various departments, so.
So are they, Coos Health and Wellness gonna hire somebody for maintenance, or whatever happened with that?
Well, there are some contract issues with them. They hired their own maintenance person.
Okay,
So,
so that's just the last I heard,
Right.
so we didn't have anything in the budget, so
It did not go forward.
it did not go forward. Okay, so I'm gonna add in the 15,000 because I didn't have that in general fund revenue, so.
Okay,
Cha-ching.
we're getting there.
We're getting there. Every little bit counts.
That is true.
anybody have any questions on that?
In all the contracted services, the most significant increase was with janitorial.
What was it last year, or this current year?
This current year, for janitorial, well, we went up, the $4,392 was typically all janitorial that we went up.
Okay.
So we
But-
did, Mike did an analysis of whether or not it would be cheaper to bring janitorial in-house this year.
Right.
We are not to that point yet, but if, based on the trajectory that we know that we're on, it will be there within the next couple of years.
It's right now, every year, we have to look into it. I mean, like Melissa said, we haven't been in there, they have a pay scale and a notebook that they go off of, and the county's been below that for a number of years. They're trying to get everybody up to that level. By going with what they project, as of right now, we cannot do it cheaper at the county level. And I don't know, with minimum wage, how that plays out, but that is an item that we look at every year when we renegotiate the contract with them.
It seems like we've had this discussion in years past, too. I just noticed with one of the other departments, there was a savings because of that line item. They took it off. It was a zeroed line item. Which one of the departments was. Thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, from last year and the previous year, the amount of work being done is less, but the cost went up, is that right?
The amount of work this coming fiscal year will be the same as what it is right now. But yes, it's got, for like the courthouse, it's gone up approximately $1,000 a month.
We have pretty much cut.
With the same work performed?
Yes.
Okay.
We've pretty much cut everything that we can out of what they're doing as far as custodial service.
Mhm.
If we tried to cut any deeper, we have departments that are, it is not in their job descriptions to do some of the work being asked.
Sure.
So we're kind of,
Yeah.
we've tried every angle that we could to try to save on the contracted services.
Okay. John, do you have any questions, or Neil?
No questions?
No.
Greg? Sven? Melissa?
No. Thanks for remembering me, though.
Anybody else? Do I have a motion?
Move tentative approval of the budget for maintenance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, Greg got it. Okay, any other discussion before we vote? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Righty. We have a discretionary list here. Do you want to go through those while you're still here?
Yeah.
Good. You're good.
No, you.
Short-term, intermediate need, and long-term need.
Okay. So Mike and I put this list together, and it's based on having our current staff. If for the board decides to reduce staffing, then this might change because of the amount of staff that would be available. We might have projects that we would normally do, what we couldn't do. Or if there's less funding in minor R&I or major R&I, we may not be able to do and have to have some projects added. But one of the number one, we're continuing to secure all entrances and exits, installation of card locks and sensor for door latches, and rekeying the outside doors. For the courthouse, we've continued to secure, we're looking into building alarms, cameras, and other equipment, but that cost is at least $70,000. Securing the exits for the remaining county buildings and going to card locks, you're looking at approximately $75,000. One of the projects we have identified is remodeling the courthouse main entrance to increase the safety for handicap use and installation of security locks and cameras. Repair and replace of the HVAC unit here in the Owen building. Mike and the crew have been really good about cannibalizing other parts to continue to operate the existing HVAC. So it's been pretty good. We've also had down to replace this carpet in the Owen building. Health and juvenile building needs to have the carpet replaced. In sheriff's office, there's still parts of the sheriff's office that needs to have the carpet replaced, although the guys have been really good about finding the vinyl flooring and installing it in some of the offices to reduce the risks for a trip and fall. Power washing the remaining outside of the courthouse. One of the big expenses just to power wash, you wouldn't think it would cost, is getting a lift to get the guys safely up to the third floor. Replacing windows in the DA and the sheriff's office with privacy glass. We've continued to work on that as money has allowed. And with putting in heaters this year, that be fewer windows that we'll be putting in, but because that's something that is expensive, it is on the discretionary list. Building a fence with a gate to secure the underneath of the North Bend Annex. Mike can speak more about that one.
Well, we have homeless people that go in back behind there, and we right now have one of our deputies goes in the morning and before he comes to work and checks and shoos them away. they also have access to the roof from that back entrance, which is a real issue for me and for anybody. You know, they can get up there and vandalize to whatever. But, yeah, we've encountered people there. We've had, some of the homeless get downright violent, upset because you're waking them up and telling them they gotta move on. So that would be with the fence and trying to gate that off. The reason that it is at 10,000, you think just putting up a fence, part of the cost is I still have to make that fence an emergency exit for the people that are in the building. And that, hardware is where some of the expenditures come from. So,
That and the land isn't level.
yeah.
It goes, angles up one side, angles up, goes, and then you have a walkway that's down part of it, so you have to block different angles off, so it's not cheap. Do we need to add in there for the inside of the building, we need to put motion detectors or? No?
And we are continuing to look at, getting rid of the North Bend Annex. Unfortunately, there's a cost to move state courts, as we've talked about in years past. State courts had gotten some money in the state budget this year in order to help move it, but as you know, there were only 4 bills passed in the legislative session, last session, so that was not a bill that that was not one of the bills that got passed. So we continue to look for sources of funding to move state courts and do the remodel necessary to make that happen. And when that happens, then we will officially shut down the annex. And
Which, when that does happen, we will see a savings on the maintenance department side of utilities and other items, because that building, of course, is not efficient at all, and I have to run a boiler over there to keep state courts warm, and I can't even heat up the hallways with the pipes and stuff.
The electrical bill we just got for February, March was just under $1,500. And that's just for the state court wing, that's operating, and the hallway down below.
Kind of gives you an idea of what that building is for us.
a money pit is what it is. But you know what it is for somebody else? A tremendous opportunity and a diamond in
Yes.
the rough. We need to be really clear with that.
And for others, it's sacred, since I was born there.
I'll put a plaque in the sidewalk.
All right. Me and Caddy McEwen, both. We were both born there.
For our intermediate needs, we're looking at replacing carpeting in the hallways of the courthouse. That's starting to show wear and tear, and we don't want it to get into a trip hazard situation. Replacing blinds with shades for the courthouse office windows. That's a project that's been requested. Then long-term repainting the courthouse, replacing any and all of the single pane windows with energy efficient double panel windows, replacing the carpet in the law library, and ultimately replacing the courthouse.
Can they replace the carpet in the law library with the law library fund?
Yes, we talked about that, I think, in years past.
Yeah.
I have talked with Nathaniel on it a little bit,
Mhm.
but we haven't gone forward with it. Part of it is probably the moving of all the books so that we can do carpet part of it, moving all the books, and the time and man hours it takes to do so.
But it wouldn't come out of the general fund, it'd come out of the law library fund.
It should.
Okay. So I need a motion on discretionary building project list.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion about discretionary list for maintenance department?
I had a comment regarding keeping the homeless out of there, out of the annex area. It seems to me that Michael stops by there on his way to work each morning and takes on that responsibility, but it it's kind of after the fact that he's able to root people out of where they're sleeping. What if we asked the North Bend City Police to do that? And so this had nothing to do with budget, it just comes to mind instead. And try to get it to, so that we don't have those people there.
I guess we could ask again. Apparently, we've asked before. Is that correct?
Yes, right now, we have a deputy that, when he's on his way to work, comes in and checks that area for us before I get there now.
Suggest to it we can't accommodate their jail needs then. Any rate, I'm ready for the motion, or for the vote.
Any other comments about discretionary fund for maintenance? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the discretionary list for maintenance. All righty, thank you very much.
Do you want to do the general?
Huh?
Yes.
What?
Do the 10, just what your 10% cut would look like?
Do we have to?
Yeah. Okay, let's do that, but we've kind of been going with the full budget so
Yeah,
far.
I think we've been having
Get an idea?
yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
helpful for us to know, if you had to
Sure.
take a 10% cut, where would it come from?
Okay.
That's really the question the budget committee
Mhm.
has.
Okay, well, to make it really easy, is it will come out of an employee. And that's what you can see on the personal services. The decreases at that point would be, 57,573. I can then drop, I felt that if I don't have adequate employees here to do the job, I can give you back another 15. Because we just wouldn't be able to do the projects. And we would then be able to, our fuels, some of the utilities actually follow the other cuts that we have for our regular. And the total decrease would be at $17,942 for services.
And then 75.
Yeah, the total would end up being $75,451 by,
Less. Okay.
but that would
And you
be-
have, you have 3 employees now?
Yes, and
Okay.
myself.
You'd have to go to 2.
I'd have to.
Besides
go to
yourself.
Yeah, and then, you get in the same, same item as some of the other departments, you start vacations, that sort. We are opening right now the North Bend Annex at 7:30 and the courthouse at 7:30. So you have to have 2 people on all the time. In order to do some of the work that we do, it takes 2 people minimum to follow some of your OSHA requirements to do so. So by taking away one of the employees, which, essentially we'd have 2 maintenance people and myself, it would be really hard to operate at a standard, keeping the old building up to what we have. We would not be able to assist at all out at the fairgrounds, parks, that sort of stuff. And what I mean by assist, a lot of the projects that we end up doing are, we do them on our own. We do the remodelings for the fair bathrooms, handrails, that they don't have adequate personnel to do so. So those are the things that we also schedule in. So,
Would we be able to even help the CHW?
yeah, and our time at CHW would be less. We just wouldn't have the people nor the bodies to do what we need to. Because we also, some people don't realize, not only are we doing the maintenance, the preventative maintenance to do so, it is the, people want their office remodeled, or they want their office furniture moved. We schedule that sort of stuff, but, sometimes we get somebody sick in the courthouse, it's the maintenance people that take care of the state courts during the day to clean up. Virginia and myself have been out disinfecting. Right now with the virus, it's maintenance that's going through that's cleaning the doorknobs and the hallways during the day to make sure that, you know, we have it as clean as possible. So, we do a variety of items here besides maybe just what it says is maintenance. So, those are items that would end up having to be, you know, contract to have somebody do it, but we wouldn't be able to, so. You can look at the savings here, but on the flip side, it may cost more just because of having to contract somebody to come in and do the cleaning, for instance. It just come up, we just absorbed it and made it in our schedule. So, okay.
Okay. Jill?
Wouldn't that also decrease your cost allocation as well, or increase it one way or the other? So you would effectively be affecting everybody's budget if you adjusted their budget.
Yes. Including the revenue side of it.
Okay, thank you again. Now we're at planning. Once we're done with planning, we're done. What?
900.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on this mission to get done today, early.
I think you'll make it. I think you'll make it.
Well, I'm working on it.
Yeah, if we're still here at 4, you're gonna wonder what went wrong.
We're not gonna be here at 4.
You and I'll still be here at noon,
Yes,
and Bobby.
yes.
Well, you want this real quick? We cut out $20,000 out of our major R&I.
Yep.
Because,
Just trying to, you know, give back what we feel we can to the general fund.
okay, so it's not because you don't think you could actually use that money.
Oh.
It's because you're not
Yeah, I
trying to.
could use that money.
Yeah.
And here's the flip side, I could use that money and utilize it well enough to even purchase something as the double pane windows that I've been slowly, like here in the next month or so, I will purchase, see what our budget looks like, and I'm gonna purchase a few more windows. Which the people that are in the offices have really noticed that their ductless heaters, they don't run as much because we're not forcing it out the windows.
Right.
So yeah, if I had that money, I could definitely continue to do that. It seems like, well, you're only replacing 1 or 2 windows, but it's like you're now sitting in a room that's all LED lights and much more efficient. And as we go forward, I feel as my job is to make sure that we're as efficient as we can be, and that's a spot that we are not efficient at all, is in our windows.
Right.
So, but yeah, I could use it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he could actually change the window in my office. It's got a big split up the window.
I'm not on the 2nd floor yet.
And at this rate, you might not live long enough.
Never mind.
Other than that, we left the postage amount the same. And then contracted services was the ones that I deal with is the state purchasing agreement and the Pitney Bowes for the mail machine maintenance.
Question.
Yep.
Unemployment for the 9,900? Is that,
That's,
So after they're done with their couple line items that they come up with in miscellaneous, we can look in the binder and go through all of the rest of them.
Do you want to do them all right now, or do you, oh, sorry, your chair, never mind.
no plan?
Yeah, I do, while
All right.
we're on the subject.
Okay. Are you guys done?
Yeah, we're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you go to the yellow tab and then to page 27 in the proposed budget in your binder.
The
Spend
bright
our
yellow or
fair-
the light yellow?
Well, one's orange and one's yellow.
Orange?
But you need to go to yellow.
This one, down here in the bottom. looks yellow to me, but okay.
This is why you're not allowed to pick out the colors for the website.
That's true.
Why he's not asked.
Thank you.
Okay. So, did you have a question about the 75,000 in unemployment spend?
Yes. What did we spend last year?
Well, the last full year we had was 18-19, which is 13,728, and then I can tell you what we've spent so far this year.
But there's no I guess there's no savings there, but there's potential it'll get used.
Yes, and it's kind of one of those unknown things. So far this year, we've used $15,449. So that's kind of one of those things where you don't know how much you're gonna need because we are self-insured for.
Could it be reduced?
I think that would depend on what we do with the rest of the budget.
Because it's the unemployment for every.
Every
general fund
department.
Every general fund department.
That's what I was thinking it was, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's probably something we can look at probably at the end.
Right, whether we
Yeah.
need to increase it or decrease
Yeah.
it.
And then other expense, I bumped back up to 100,000. It'll probably go back down, but that's just what we use. I think the water, the board's office comes out of there, and other things that, you can't predict and don't fit anywhere else. And then also if, other departments need to increase their expenses because of something that cannot be taken out of operating contingency, there's a little bit there for that. Settlements, Nat took care of. The audit filing fee, that's a state fee that we have to pay when we finish our audit. Court security, the less than 5,000 equipment for court security, that's something that state courts comes up with, and there is a direct revenue offset for that. So if we don't spend the money, we don't get the revenue, and then if we do spend it, then we get reimbursed for it, basically. Postage, Virginia just went over. Auditing and accounting, that's what it costs for our auditors.
That's the annual audit?
Yes. That we're required to have. We don't really get an option on that.
Did we talk about this last year, or the year before, about sending out for bid and getting interested parties?
We have new auditors, and we went out for bid, and it remained about the same. It might have went down a little bit, but it's a 3-year contract, so it'll go up a little bit every year, which is pretty standard. We did have some trouble finding auditors. It's just not a very popular business to be in, so no one wants to, it's a lot of work, and every year it's even more work with more standards and stuff that has to go into the report, so.
And this is a government accounting audit, so
Mhm.
it's more complex than, for nonprofits, which is why Megan had a hard time finding someone.
And we're one of the larger governments that have to have it done. Because, cities and then even fire districts and stuff, they all have to have some form of an audit, and the county one is rather large and time consuming. Bonds, that is the tax premiums, that went down a little bit because when we estimated the previous year's budget, we increased.
You're feeding back through, yeah.
Okay. We did a 10% increase, which was an estimate, and it ended up coming in a lot lower this current fiscal year. So when we budgeted a little bit of an increase this year, overall it was lower. Nat did insurance deductibles. The budget committee, you guys are really expensive.
Mhm.
Budgeted $100 for that. Telephone is $100,000. Don't really have much control over that. Notices and reports. This is where all general fund open positions get advertised out of, and where we do any other sort of publication, budget publication, and anything that comes out of council's office that requires a legal publication, all comes out of there. The geological survey is high, no stream gauges.
Stream gauges.
Good, I remembered this time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's all I know about that, that's all I know. Contracted services is a portion of the insurance cost allocation, broadcasting services, who films meetings for us. Independent actuaries, that's something we're required to have done every other year for the audit report. ORCPP membership,
So Oregon State Purchasing Program,
thank you.
that saves us money with our bulk purchases.
Pitney Bowes, that's for our mail machine, and then Bay Area copiers. Mike was just talking about major R&I, and then this is the other part of the court security that has a direct revenue offset. And then we have all the transfers to other funds that get some support from the general fund,
Okay.
which we can go over more once those funds come in and present. And payment of advanced taxes, that's the really small taxing districts where we
Just pay them off.
pay them off outright and then just collect the taxes, so there is a revenue offset for that. And then the operating contingency. So I bumped that up to $2,750,000, and that is because as our budget gets tighter and tighter, my beginning balance goes away. And it is quite a bit lower this year than it has been in years past, and I need that money to get us through until we get the bulk of our property taxes in October and November. So I will fight to keep that what it is.
You've been warned.
Any questions?
Nope. Apparently, we don't have any questions. Greg? No?
Not yet, anyway.
Liz? Okay. Neil or John?
I'm fine.
I'm good.
Okay. So we're finished with miscellaneous now?
Yes, sir.
A motion for it?
Move tentative approval of the miscellaneous budget?
Do you have a second? Greg did? Okay. Any other discussion about it? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Planning. And we're only, let's see, 4.5 hours ahead. All right. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay. So I did 3 different scenarios for you. I did scenario one would be, everything that we think that we really need to move or to go electronic. Scenario two is a 10% reduction, and scenario three is a 5% because it's in the middle. So it's that we think that we could probably cut out some of the electronic scanning and stuff and space it out. So, and some of the trainings, especially now that trainings are going to happen more online frequency and not actual on-site. So the 5% is probably more likely what I'm gonna ask for you guys to move forward to. So I don't know if you want me to start with that scenario or if you want me to start with scenario one.
Mr. Chairman?
Why don't you just go through one,
Okay.
and then we'll have any changes for your 5%.
Okay. So scenario one starts out with the revenue at 420,288. That's still a 13,000 reduction over what we think is going to happen this year. Expense-wise, the bulk of our expenses are, of course, in wages, and then in our $9,000 copier that we have to replace.
Okay.
And then a little bit in software license and maintenance. We were hoping to be able to buy a couple additional smaller scanners and some Adobe software. So in the 5%, we only do the scanners and not the software. And when I say the Adobe Acrobat, that's like the pro that helps us manipulate some of the forms and stuff. But some of us already have it, so I think we can make do and slide by another year.
Are you seeing a decrease in your planning fees during this time when your office hasn't been open to the public, or?
You would think so.
No, everybody's like, I'm home, I might as well do those planning applications I've been meaning to do.
I think that we have had a few people that were waiting to submit rezone applications that just have come in. And I think they're kind of taking advantage of the downtime to get that stuff done so that when
Right.
summertime comes along that they can hopefully build. I don't think that we'll probably know how this is gonna hit us until we get to summer, because that's really our busier time. So, and I see I think building it will slow down for a period of time, and then I think it'll actually pick back up.
Mhm.
You know, we're in a housing crisis, if that's what you wanna call it, but basically people are still looking for housing units. Real estate is still happening. They're doing virtual tours rather than more in-house tours, but the realtors say that it has slowed a little bit, it's still continuing, and that's usually the market that I try to follow.
Okay, thanks, Jill.
So I don't know how much, my budget's not very big, so I don't know how much detail you really want in scenario one, other than, as I said, contracted services. Contracted services kind of details out on the page 5 of 5. So this would allow us to hire a temporary employee to come in and scan our files. If you guys have never been to our file room, you should go to our file room. It's pretty large, pretty paper intensive.
What will you do with those old files if you scan them in? Can you actually get rid of them, or?
We can. We would probably do we would consult with IT to make sure we did 2 different backups, so if something happened that we'd still have some way to retain the other. But if we're talking about moving, we don't really want to move all those files.
Right.
And if the annex sells, my understanding is we would be one to move.
Mhm.
I mean, that's an expense, so at some point we would like to be able to get these scanned. Some of the decrease in counter visits and phone time has allowed Michelle in our office to start scanning some of them. I'm hoping that she'll be able to continue that, but I think if the office reopens, that probably her time will go back to that. So, and then we have the cost allocation and the Able insurance in there. So We didn't budget for hearings officer, you know, we're still working on records objections, and last year it took 2 years before it came back to us on Jordan Cove. So I don't picture that we're gonna have to budget for hearings officer until the following year.
Okay.
So that's the only reason there's nothing for that.
Hmm.
And even if there is, we would end up doing an increase in revenue anyways along the ways, just because it's billed to the applicant, so it's a wash.
So we still have the appeals coming up, right?
Yes, we have 4 appeals. The first record that we did was a little over, I think it was 12,000 pages. The second record was
How many?
22,000 pages, 12,000. The second one was 22,000. The third one was down to 6,000, and the fourth one is right around 5,000 pages.
So 12,000, 22,000, 6,000 pages of appeal.
So that's where my time is.
Kind of where that,
And so we're working with the parties to resolve any kind of records objections. So if you're not familiar, we submit it, they go through and they raise objections with certain things. Some of them have been simple because maybe some of the headers and footers when they were scanned didn't scan in right, stuff like that, page numbering. Some of the searchability, we have to make them fully text searchable. Some of those are the issues. So they're more technical issues than they are anything else. It's just unfortunate because they're so large that it takes a long time to go back through and make sure that we can work through those.
So you have to submit it all as one file, or?
I broke it up into different items because
Okay.
it was easier to search, but one of the attorneys actually came back and said that they didn't believe that it met the record requirement, so I had to remerge it all back together.
Oh my gosh.
And that's why we're having trouble with 22,000 pages being
Yeah.
searchable.
It's a big file.
Luckily, I mean, if there's anything I can say positive about the virus is that I think the attorneys now have kind of decided that they should be a little bit more forgiving to the situation, and they're more willing to accept some of the searchable issues. And so I just have to go through and separate out those pages and identify them as what's not searchable, so they know that when they're searching, those ones won't actually come up. So my job's not very fun right now.
I was just thinking about the computer requirements of sending 22,000 pages.
I had to have
You have to have special.
upgrade my memory in my computer because it kept crashing my computer. The only computer that we had that would handle it was Amy's because we have a mapping program on there, and so she already has a bigger capability.
I know, but just the email server has to greatly increase to send out.
We can't send it through email at all. It has to be sent through either USB drives or through
okay.
Dropbox.
All right. Yeah, because it wouldn't handle it.
It won't.
Yeah.
There's no way. And the Land Use Board of Appeals does not have a way that you can electronically submit to their website. So they don't have like an FTP site or Dropbox where I can just send it to them.
That's not my fault.
I have to buy the USB drives. That's still a lot cheaper than printing all those pages.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about printing pages, and you were talking about needing a new copier. How many copies do you make a year?
I can't remember how many exactly, but we were hoping to downgrade the copier, but when we looked at how much we have done, which this copier I believe is 7 years old, and we went through a lot of Jordan Cove stuff, and it sounds terrible, like it's not gonna make it. Copier people hate to work on it anymore, and I know I pushed it off last year, but I really can't push it anymore.
Is it standard format or large format?
It's just a standard printer. We can do a 11 by 17, but we are trying to push more and more electronic so that we can get away from printing as much paper. And in order to do that, as I said, we need to scan these files and get them up on the system. We've worked with e-permitting through the state too. They're willing to move us forward. We're about halfway there. We need to keep moving forward so that way we're on the same system as building codes and deeds. so that you have one central location to go. So our scenario 2 is our 10% reduction. Our 10% reduction, oh, I also forgot to tell you in revenue. So in the revenue, I also have planned for a couple grants that I have a lead on, and I'm still working with DLCD on, and yeah, the other one just lost my mind. Transportation system plan updates, TGM grant. So those are two of the grants that we're currently working towards. TGM has been delayed, so I'm still not gonna know even when the budget's adopted if I get it or not. DLCD also I'm not gonna know until after the budget's adopted. But worst case scenario, if we have a decrease in work, you know, we lay people off. That's how you make it out.
Right.
Okay.
So, basically in the 10% one, we go to a lease for the copier instead of, buying the copier outright. That will end up costing us an extra, I think it's $4,000 or $4,500 if we do a lease versus buying. I'd rather buy it than lease it, but, you know, if we do the 10%, there's no way I can make that work. I have certain statutory requirements for mailing out legal notices and stuff, so I cut that to the bare minimum. Again, this is without laying anybody off, but if the work decreases and the income doesn't come in, then we have to look at that alternative.
Okay.
So then we come to the 5% reduction. The 5% reduction still allows us to maintain operations. I also did forget to say, if I have to go to 10%, I probably will have to cut out most of my enforcement stuff.
Did you hear that, John?
Say that again?
Jill says if she has to do the 10% cut, she will have to cut out most of her enforcement work.
Okay. We don't want to do that.
So 5% still allows us to maintain, it takes away the scanning that we had planned to move more electronic, but we can do it in bits and pieces and it'll just take us longer to get there. So it would probably take us 3 years to get there versus hiring somebody totally just to do it in a short amount of time. Again, this is buying the copier, so this is the $9,000 budgeted and the 5% reduction. This is reducing some of the training requirements, which I think right now is fair to say that we're going to reduce some of the training opportunities because we're going to do more online trainings and not in-person trainings. And even with my Planning Directors Association, I'm doing all online meetings, monthly meetings, and not traveling anywhere, so it cuts out traveling too. So before the virus started, I'd say, yeah, I wanted to go with more of the full-on budget, but I'd say 5% is reasonable.
Any questions for Jill?
Just a clarification.
This way?
Scenario 3, your revenue matches your expenses, and in scenario 1 and 2, they do not. Is that,
Yep.
I'm seeing that. The same with the binder?
Yep.
That's what you prefer?
Yeah.
Or,
That's what I prefer. I prefer not to have to take any of the general fund dollars. Basically, I was gonna have to take the general fund dollars to work on the scanning project and maybe a little bit of training, but.
okay. Well, just an observation is you're approving everyone else that they're, what they presented, and she's already done part of her work ahead of time, so.
Well, you know, the interesting part about planning is they function more as a non-general fund department, but because of the fact that she requires reimbursements, 2 years ago, you moved back into the general fund in order to deal with the cash flow issue,
Yeah.
essentially.
So when Megan was talking about having to have that $2 million for startup, I felt felt like, yes, you do, because we got stuck a couple times where we just didn't have the cash flow, and then we would have to ask for a loan, and it became messy, so it became easier to go in the general fund and just put the money back in.
Any other questions?
No, but I think Sven brings up a reasonable question.
Yeah.
Are we looking at approving scenario 1 or scenario 3?
Well, we've done the rest of them as one, so we should do this one as one to begin with.
But if she didn't present a balance.
Hmm?
Or we could just approve it as scenario 3 and just not even consider it as part of the general fund when we're looking at reductions. I mean, because her revenue will match her expenses, and then at that point, I don't know that we have to consider it as
Or
part of
maybe
our
more
cuts.
strategic if there were to be, if you tentatively approve 3, and you need to go back, be more strategic and not take everything as the 10%.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we tentatively approve scenario 3.
All right, I'll second.
Okay. Discussion about
Yes,
scenario
I appreciate
3.
how decisive you were.
John or Neil?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any other discussion about scenario 3? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Jill, I always appreciate the work you do going into budget. And
Yeah.
you always present us with a very
Thank you,
reasonable
Jill.
budget, and thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we had a
So
choice.
my questions to you guys are, because, you know, I feel like I've been out in record world. So this is your first cut, and we're running a little bit later in budget. Will there be another cut? I mean, will we come back to you guys again, or do you know?
Maybe not you, but the rest of them probably.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially self-balanced, which makes it easier for us.
Okay.
Looking at Megan to make sure she's in agreement, but, yeah.
And I didn't go over anything for weed board either, Megan. I don't know if you wanted me to do that or, no, okay.
There is discussion that, as part of the state's efforts on coronavirus, they may relax the budget law requirements of May 1st, but that's not a for sure thing yet.
Right.
So we're moving forward as if we have to have a balanced budget on, or have to have the CAFAT grant in on May 1st. So,
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, so we've
Thank you.
finished the agenda. Anything to come before the budget committee after the first day?
Well, I was just kind of wondering in general about the possible anticipated shortfall in property tax collection due to the slowdown in the economy.
Could.
It's kind of hard to tell at this point. Right now, the only thing that I can see is possibly a lot of people missing their May payment, but most people have it in their mortgage, so it's not a big enough number to make a huge difference.
What percent is your total property taxes compared to the total $110 million budget, or whatever it is?
Hmm?
And what,
Should we refer to rant number 1?
Bob, you know this one.
Yeah, you have it memorized, don't you, Bob?
5.5 million in property tax comes to the county out of about 80 million we bill out.
okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I think that
Mhm.
actually was in the introductory thing that Cribbins.
Yeah, we,
This one too, when she read her.
the proposed budget is we get about a little over 5.5 million. The jail is going to cost 6.1 or 6.6. So we're about 1.1 million short on property taxes just to keep 98 beds open in the jail. And that doesn't cover the rest of the officers for the sheriff's office, patrol,
Juvenile.
civil, juvenile, DA's office, all the DDAs, the assessor, tax, treasurer, elections, county clerk, HR, county council, commissioners, planning, etc. think I had them all. Oh, surveyor. Yeah, yeah.
So I actually did the math on the proposed budget, property taxes is 20.8% of the total.
Yeah. Of the, what, 23 million or something?
26.
26 million for total general fund cost.
I did send an email to
Some of that is grants and things, so.
I sent an email to HR with a question about the surveyor's office
Uh-huh.
and doing a stipend for the business operations manager. And she sent me back a response and said I could share it with the budget committee. She said currently Mike Dado receives a $500 stipend for land agent duties. And if Desiree gets one too, that makes $1,000 a month for land agent duties. Maybe they should make Desiree land agent instead and make it official. When Kathy Hathaway performed land agent duties plus her own duties, she received the same monthly pay that Desiree currently receives. Perhaps instead, if they insist on splitting the land agent duties, they could split the stipend, $300 a month for Dado and $200 a month for Desiree instead of $1,000 a month. So she said that when pay equity was done, Desiree's work as land agent was also considered as part of that pay equity analysis. So if we did give her an additional stipend, we would be in fact paying her additional for doing work that she's already being paid to perform, which is something that the commissioners are always really aware of, hyper aware of, and we tried to avoid doing inadvertently. So that's just food for thought.
Okay. Anything else you want to discuss before we recess till tomorrow at 8:30? Sven?
Cost allocation, there was a scale and a graduation, has that been, I didn't remember any mention of that in the opening, does that remain frozen? Wasn't there a
We were,
tiering it in?
Yeah.
Phasing it in?
and we're at 75%, and past county council advised us to stay at the 75% and to never go to 100%. Just for liability purposes, to make sure there was room for error. If there's anything in there that.
As soon as the sheriff leaves, we can talk about it.
He's waiting for it.
Any other questions? John, Neil, you have any questions after the first day?
Not right now.
Okay.
I think it's worth mentioning, I was just looking, and we're seeing Coos Health and Wellness and Public Health on Wednesday afternoon. That's going to look quite a bit different than what you're used to seeing in the past, because they've gone from a capitated payment, which means you get paid for every life that's on OHP within their service area, to a fee-for-service model. Because of changes that are being made at the state level, the need to increase access to mental health treatment. This is the direction that Advanced Health has gone in order to increase access to mental health treatment. They believe that a fee-for-service model will mean that Coos Health and Wellness will be able to see more patients because they'll be on more of an hourly model or half-hourly model, just like when you go to see your physician. If you're a physician, if you can see more people, you make more money. I think the deficit to that is, of course, if I'm a physician and I see more patients, I make more money. If I'm a salaried employee and I see more patients, I make the same amount of money. So you don't necessarily have that economic driver per employee that you would have in a physician's office. So something to think about. And this is our first year on it. Our staff has really made a lot of effort in negotiating this contract and getting there, but just know that that's going to look very different. We have a $4 million base payment, and then everything else on top of that is fee for service. So it's about a $10 million cut. And then, if they can make $10 million in fee for service payments, then there's no cut at all. And then public health, of course, with this coronavirus issue, they're not able to see any patients right now, and their home visiting numbers are way down, as they should be. And they have so far received $72,000 in reimbursement from the state in order to help pay our costs. I'm not tracking the money, the emergency operations center is, but we know it's in excess of 72,000 so far, because the emergency operations center was activated back in January. They are keeping track of those costs. They will apply for FEMA reimbursement, but as will every other government in the nation. So you have to wonder how much money is really going to be there for that reimbursement. But they're also looking at other grant opportunities, and they'll talk about it when they're here. But just so you know, those are gonna be a different conversation than we've had in years past.
Same with parks too.
Yeah, same with parks, big cuts there, or big, revenue hits there.
Yep.
When you have to close it down right before spring break, it's not the best possible time.
So I just wanna also make sure with Neil and John that the files are coming through okay and that you guys are able to follow. Is there anything that I need to change with how that's happening? We tried to put them in order.
It all looks really good, but it'd be nice if I could get the page to turn around. I haven't figured out how to do that yet.
Right click. Rotate.
Right click?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try that.
And there, it should be rotate clockwise, I think is what it says, and you might have to do it a couple times. But
Okay.
our scanner is not the best, so it doesn't always scan in correctly.
There's no option for rotating counterclockwise?
No, just clockwise.
Just clockwise?
On a PDF normally, yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Neil's doing better than I am. I'm going to come in this afternoon and pick up my papers.
Don't you have your notebook?
Yes, he should.
I have a notebook.
He wants this packet.
He wants the packet,
Well,
the daily packet.
John, I'm over here. I can just bring them if you want.
Oh, I don't mind. Well, yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
I'll tell Michelle if you try to leave the house.
Okay.
The only one I have right now is tomorrow's. I don't have them for the whole week because they come in 3 days before, and so we have to.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Organize.
I could bring them today's and tomorrow's, right?
Okay. Mhm.
Okay.
That'd be very helpful.
Is that fine?
Thank you.
Okay.
What's tomorrow's agenda? It's in the book?
It's in your
Yeah.
binder.
It's
It hasn't
assessor, treasurer, finance, tax, IT, clerk,
All the
assessor,
important departments.
forestry, board of commissioners.
We get to leave our books here, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
You may.
Anything else?
You did, Bob.
Hearing none, we're in recess till tomorrow at 8:30.
Good job, Bob.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you later.
So I'll just pull into John's driveway and fling his packet at his door and then drive off.
Yeah. He's whining about running low on wine, and then I find out he's getting deliveries.
We'll add some to it.
His nephew has the Costco delivery thing.
We just need to figure out what time